Anyway, Senator John Thune is on the Senate Finance Committee. He joins us. And Senator, I just want to comment once. Jay Carney says Congress wrote the law, passed the law, should read the law. I agree, but I think the press secretary neglected to say it was his boss's idea, and his boss signed the law and didn't veto the law. So there was a little missing piece of information there. But anyway, what in the world are you doing about all this?
Well, right, and the bosses, in other words, the president's employees, have known about this for a year and a half. It's not like this was sneaking up on them. And then all of a sudden, at the 11th hour on Friday, they notify the airlines that starting Monday, they're going to have these massive delays. And that's when we finally got notified about it. And we've got correspondence going back and forth with the FAA for months, trying to get information about how they're going to implement the sequester. In fact, Administrator Huerta testified in front of the Senate twice last week. Didn't say anything about it, and then Friday announces this. So it's really been a screwed up mess from the beginning, but it's not something that snuck up on them. This is something that's been out there for a long time.
Well, the administrator had declined to answer Representative Rogers' repeated questions about whether he and other administration officers have discussed transferring money, including funds within the larger transportation department, to rectify this. Wouldn't even answer the question. I mean, there are solutions.
Sure there are, and they can actually request reprogramming from Congress. They've not made that request. They've got
Why aren't they?
Well, they don't have a good answer other than to say, because I asked that question at a hearing last week in front of the Commerce Committee, and he basically said, well, it wouldn't be enough. Well, it would go a long ways toward being enough, and then let's find some other ways to offset this that doesn't impact personnel that are so essential to public health and safety.
You know what? There will be, if there is a problem, and that's code for something far, I'm saying it the nice way, but if there is a serious problem because of all the furloughed air traffic controllers, there's going to be the blood on every member of Congress, Senate, and the President's hands. Because everybody knows that air traffic controllers are important. This is a safety thing. And this gamesmanship of this politics of the sequestration, that's because nobody did his job. And now the American people, I mean, people are annoyed at being late and are annoyed at missing flights, but there could be something far more catastrophic.
Well, and it's almost like what they did is it's how can we make this as painful as possible to the American people, and have essentially turned airline travelers into a political football in order to make the point that these cuts have got to be replaced with a big tax increase, which is what the president's been advocating.
Has the president said anything about this?
You know, you saw what his spokesman said today, but
no, he left him out.
Right. You know, but if you look at what the Secretary of Transportation, Ray LaHood, and Administrator Huerta have been saying, and by the way, they did come up today. We had a good conversation. It was constructive, and hopefully, we can find a way to resolve this soon.
But it isn't constructive if you won't answer the question about about transferring other money. It's not constructive. It may have been polite and nice and civil, but it's not constructive. And you've got the administrator saying, I agree, this is no way to run a government, but we're complying with the law. I mean, he's not even trying. He's not being creative. He's not trying.
Right. And
so I don't, you say it's constructive, and I think it's not.
Well, we pointed out, I mean, several times in the hearing last week in their budget, all these areas that are not personnel related, that aren't air traffic controller related, that are what we would call overhead. $500 million for consultant contracts, $179 million for travel, $134 million for office supplies. Those are the types of things they should have been looking at. What do they
say when you say, go get that money and move it over here?
Well, they said we've already cut these areas back and it's not enough. But, you know, if you look at it, and of course, is the point that you made earlier, the larger DOT budget is a $70 billion annual budget. Surely you would be able to find, you would think, $500,000 or $500 million, which is essentially what the FAA was looking at to try and find in terms of savings, to deal with this issue in a way that doesn't impact public health and safety and the American air traveler and our economy. You know, when people are sitting on the tarmac out there for hours at a time, it obviously has a profound impact on our productivity as well. So,
I guess as a lawyer, I look at worst case scenario, and I hope we're only talking about being annoying and affecting our economy.
Well, I hope so.
That's the extent of it.
I hope so too, and I think I better be paying attention to that aspect of it. But this needs to get resolved and get resolved soon. There's a solution out there, and the administration needs to come forward and work with us to try and solve this in a way that isn't so inconveniencing and so painful to the American public.
Should be done tomorrow.
Right.
Anyway, Senator, thank you. Always nice to see you, sir.
Thanks, Greta. Thanks.